Welcome to the Explosive Strength Podcast with Jake Beatty. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the squat ratios some more, the box squat pads, and some questions that I get concerning the things like that. Anyway, y'all have heard me talk about some of the episodes about the squat ratios. The reason I came out with the squat ratios is to figure out the limiting factor. What is the limiting factor? Why is this person, if we're squatting more, why are they not running a faster 40-yard dash? And people want to blame it on plyos and things of that nature. What I was reading several years ago is the American College of Sports Medicine, I think, or it may have been the National Strength Conditioning Association, did a research on Division II football players, and they pooled them, all the athletes that squatted 2.1 times their body weight over here in this group, and all the athletes over here that squatted 1.9 over here, and they were testing more than 40. They didn't test this tracks crap that we get on, hey, this person does this, hey, that plyo stuff is more based on track stuff. I'm trying to figure out the short sprints because I'm dealing with athletes. I'm not dealing with track people. If I was dealing with track people, I may look down that road, but I'm over here in my lane doing this thing. So what I was trying to figure out, like when you're playing sports and everything's in a short distance, 10, 15 yards, maybe before you have to change direction and redirect. So why do you need to do all the elastic work if you're never going to get the max velocity? Other people want to work on max velocity. You need to work on your acceleration. Anyway, that study pulled them in 2.1 and 1.9, and the 2.1 significantly beat the 1.9 in the 10 to 20 and the 40. And that's exactly what I test. I have baseball athletes that come to the gym. I still test their 40, and whatever, if their 40 improves, their 60 is going to improve. I've had athletes go from 7.2s to 6.6s in the 60-yard dash within a year's time. But the whole thing is, what's the limiting factor? If they're squatting this, why are they not doing this? And I also was reading research while I was doing all this. Characteristics of elite sprinters is they squatted 2.5 times their body weight. Well, that was still doing with track, and why? And so 2.5 times their body weight. So I know we have to be some type of relative strong. Even Paul Anderson, huge 5'10", 365-pound white guy, would beat Olympic sprinters in the first 15 to 20 meters. After that, their technique took over and he was not able to. But if he was playing linebacker, or if he was fullback or running back or whatever, had to get off the ball, he had to get down 10-yard out route, boom, he would win because he's quicker. He was better. If he was beating Olympic sprinters, he was quick, and he had a 1,200-pound squat. He was jumping over 10 foot in broad jump. Ridiculous for a guy that size at 365 pounds at 5'10". So what I'm trying to say is, once we get the ratios, what's the limiting factor? And my ratios will not probably match up to a lot of other people's ratios. I need to try to get this more universal. So if someone of you's out there and can help me do that, I would appreciate that. But the pads, there's Elite Fitness is where I get my pads from. And over the years, they have changed up the stiffness of the pad, or mine could just be that much more worn out than the other ones. But they've changed you got the first generation, which I have, then you got the second generation, which is a little more squared off and a little bit more give. The first and the second, I'm kind of getting the same reading zone as far as athletes. And a new generation is a little bit stiffer. You don't sneak in as much. And so the kids say it's easier. So I took that, threw it over a 24-hour gym, because I don't want in the gym messing up my ratios, because if I'm trying to get these kids, boom, boom, and these certain numbers and trying to test their 40s, I need to make sure that everything I've got is consistent. So what I did this week is I took an old pad and I got that new pad. And this kid squatted 365 pounds. With the old pad, his top speed was 0.48. Well, his second set, his top speed was a 0.45 with the old pad. So the old pad, he got a 4.48 and a 4.5. Well, on his third set, that way after he's done his first two, I know he's good and warmed up. So I know by the time his third set, he's ready to roll. So there's no, sometimes if you train, sometimes your first set's your hardest set. So I got the first set the hardest out of the way, 4.8. He actually did better on the first set than he did second set. Second set top speed was 4.5. Third set, put the new pad in, 5.3. Next set, took the old pad back in, 4.3. Next set, put the new pad back in, and it was a 5.5. So every time he squatted with a new pad, it was in the 5s, and every time he squatted with the old pad, it was the 4s. And so then on this, I had him do an extra set at the end with the second generation pad, and he did a 0.44 with the Tendo unit. So a 4.8, a 4.5, a 4.3, and a 4.4, all with the old pad and second generation pad. And so then I had a kid do the same thing. I had an old, new, and with the old pad, he squatted a 5.9. With the new pad, he squatted a 6.7. Old pad, 5.6, and new pad, a 6.3. And on his third rep, with that 6.3, his third rep, he still squatted a 0.54. So he was just as fast by his third rep of that set than he was with the old pad. And so had another kid do it, 3.15. I didn't get his first two sets because he didn't pay attention to what I was wanting to do. So I missed the first two sets, so I couldn't go old, new. I just went old and new, but this was set 4 and I'm at set 3 and set 4. So set 3 with the old pad, he got a 0.49. And so by the time we get to our fourth set, you're more tired. And so his top speed of his last set was a 0.57. And then I had another kid do it, 6.671. I didn't get his last two, so I don't know where all that went to. So anyway, so some of these kids are about 0.08 off. And if you're trying to match up the ratios and things like that, and you're off by 0.08, and if you're looking at it, okay, now you're squatting in the 4s versus the 5s. This kid was squatting in the 5s versus the 6s. And this kid was squatting in the 6s versus the 7s down here, where he was squatting 290 in the 6.6, old pad, 7.1 with a new pad. And so sometimes these pads, so if you don't have that Elite Fitness older pad, my squat ratios may not match up with yours. I don't know which episode. You can go back and look how to box squat for sprint speed on YouTube and watch that. It's a pretty long video. I put some clips of it on Instagram if you want to go check that out. And I actually had someone on Instagram, he was squatting so you could see them actually what a 0.6 looks like. So that shows how to box squat for sprint speed again. And you could actually see what a 6 meters per second, because I had the Tendo unit turned around so that the camera could pick up the reading of the Tendo unit numbers. So anyway, I hope that helps some of you out. For those of you who don't know, if you are squatting 1.5 something times your body weight, you're going to run a 4.9. A 1.49 times your body weight is a 5 flat. So a 1.4 is a 5 flat. A 1.5 is a 4.9. A 1.6 is a 4.8. A 1.7 is a 4.7. A 1.8 is a 4.6. Somewhere in those range. So if with the I don't have all those numbers in front of me, but this kid squatted a 1.77, almost a 1.8. So that 1.8 would have been a 4.6, but he squatted 1.77, so he ran a 4.7. But he ran a 4.73 or 4.72. So you see how closer he was to that 1.8 with a 1.77. So he's getting closer, so it's 40-yard dash lower, and you can see that all over some of the other ones. So hopefully I don't get too far off track, but I just want to talk about the squat ratios. And the only reason, figure out the limiting factor. You know, if you're talking track and all that other stuff, it may be a totally different ball game, but we're short sprints and that's what it matters most. And so that's why it can be directly implemented in sports, but if not track, who knows? The world gets so confusing with everybody trying to read track books and apply it to short sprint stuff. It's not the same thing. Look at Bolt, he gets his ass kicked every time up to 50 meters. And some of the other guys, somebody said some other names to me at the gym this past week about the track guys. Yeah, he may be the fastest guy in the world at the 100 and maybe the 200. I don't know anything about the 200 with Bolt, but I know if it was 40-yard dash, he'd be getting his ass kicked a lot of times by some of these kids that are a lot stronger than him. So it is what it is. Pass the word on. So, okay, so let's get to some of these questions. If you notice the ratio is off, what are you looking to improve first? For example, if someone hits a 1.8, but their 40 is slower, more weighted or unweighted jumps, more plyometrics, guessing it varies person to person, but I can appreciate any of your thoughts. If it's more of the weighted jumps or with the unweighted. Um, I have most of my athletes focus on the weighted jump because it's if they get too caught up in that day and they skip the weighted jumps or if they skip the dumbbell jumps and get more concerned with the non-weighted jump, they won't do the dumbbell jumps. And the dumbbell jumps is the thing that's taking that newly acquired fireworks and teaching how to fire. And so depending on their height, I try to get my athletes to match up to the box. Like I had a kid that was 6'2" squatting on our boxes are 12 inches with a blue foam pad on it. So, but the foam pad sinks and you're almost getting close to the box with it. It's not a stiff pad. It's like a couch cushion type softness. And he was squatting on a 14-inch box with a blue pad. His ratios were off, and then I removed the 2 inches from his box and had him squat lower. Then he matched up perfectly to the ratios. So I would first, if you're doing your jumps and you're off with the ratios, if you're doing the jumps and you're breaking your records and your ratios are off, I would mess with the box height. And if the box can't go any lower, I've had kids stand on a plate or something, put their shoes on. Most of my kids squat with their shoes off, and I had them put their shoes on to make them have to squat a little bit lower. These kids could be like 5'8", 5'9", somewhere in there. But usually for 5'8" plus it works. But if you're not getting the ratio right, try to get it, see how far you are actually off. But plyos will not really help, again, with the short distance as much. Track depending on your timing system as well. I use Brauer timing system. A lot of these other people use Freelap or something that may be a little bit cheaper. And so my stuff's based off a Tendo unit reading and the Brauer timing system. So if you don't have those specific things, your numbers could be off. So it really depends on how you're being timed with that. Okay. Hi, Jared. I had my first read through the book. Just real quick question. When you're squatting individuals that are over 6'3", are you still using the same 12-inch pad box setup with a 6-inch pad? Or are you looking for certain knee height or angle or depth or anything like that? I think I covered that. I'm just looking for, I don't look for depth. I don't look for parallel, or I don't look for knee angles or anything like that. I look at these numbers like this 0.44, 0.55, 0.43, whatever those numbers are. And I look in their folder, so whatever they squatted within that month, their highest 0.6. So none here, none here. So this kid with a new pad, he squatted a 6'7" and a 6'3", but with the old pad, he squatted a 5'9" and a 5'6". So that I know he squatted with the new pad, so he's not really going to be on the list because it's not a good example of what I'm trying to do right there. But this kid, Jack, with the old pad, got a 6'6" new pad, he got a 7'1" underneath the last two sets. So whatever their top speed is, their squats are written down on their folder. So I pick up the fastest 0.6 out of a weight that they used during that month, and I take that weight at a 0.6, divided by the body weight, gives me the ratios. So not looking for anything knee height or anything like that. So hopefully I don't get too rambling with this. So this other question I've heard, you say your athletes do dumbbell jumps 3 days a week, squat and do dumbbell jumps 3 days a week with accessories. Can the other day be utilized for benching and upper body? We bench 3 days a week, we squat 3 days a week. Our squat days, we squat, we jump, and we get our accessories done. And sometimes our accessories, we may do 20-yard sprints, we may do hurdle jumps. We may not even jump or sprint at all. I'm trying to really get these athletes to understand if I add too much sprinting in and I test their 40-yard dash in the month, they're gonna think they improved because they were sprinting. So I'm trying to not add as much jumping or sprinting style stuff in there. I'm just trying to do everything with lifting to get them to understand how important the lifting stuff is. Now, if we go from a 5'2" to a 4'7", just squatting and jumping, and we need to get down to 4'6", I may throw some sprinting in there in hopes that it helps, but I don't know. I just know that if we're going from a 5'2" to a 4'7" with just lifting, that shows you right there how important strength is relative to your body weight. So we bench 3 days a week, we squat 3 days a week for the most part. I do have kids that only come 4 days a week, so they're to bench, squat, and they don't come on the weekends because they're too damn lazy. But anyway, can you do depth jumps and short sprints with dumbbells, or is that not okay? Yeah, I just answered that. So you can. Sometimes we'll squat, jump, sprint, accessory, but it's very rare. And I limit my 20, and if we do sprint in the gym, it's 20-yard sprints, and I limit the sprints to 3 because they'll get over there and want to keep sprinting, keep sprinting, keep sprinting. Every time you sprint is like a set. So it's 3 sets of 20 yards. That's 1 set. If we did, and I would say, hey, do you want to add? If they want to do over there 5 or 6 sprints, I said, would you add extra squat sets to your stuff? I said, heck no. I said, it was the same thing as sprinting, except for sprinting is not compressing as much as squatting and stuff is. So I limited to 3 because I would let them try to go over there and break their last previous 20-yard time. And when they come in the gym and they don't beat it, they'll keep sprinting. And the next day they come in, they have a super shitty day, can't break their squat speeds, can't do their dumbbell jumps, and sure as hell not breathe. So I have limited that to 3 when we do it. So anyway, thank y'all for watching. Thank you for listening, and hope this helps you guys. Thanks.